If you want next year to be a year of growth and evolution for your business or your brand, then there's two key things that you need. The first is a vision for the year, and the second is an action plan. By now you probably know I like to keep things simple, so I've created a 1-hour coffee date year-end review to help you not just reflect on the learnings of the year past, but also to develop a concrete action plan for success. Before we get into the actual review of the year, there are two action points that I would really like you to take. The first is, if you want to complete this review, I've created a workbook for you that you can download for free. You just go to the link on the screen right now or in the description below the video, and you can download the PDF. You can fill it out on your tablet or your laptop, or if you'd like to do it old school like I do sometimes, you can print it out and just write on it. The second action step is probably the most important. Grab your calendar and schedule an hour for you to do this review. But most importantly, schedule an hour away from where you normally work, away from your usual distractions and responsibilities and notifications. Make sure that you give yourself the time to just take an hour to think about your business and really work on your business instead of in it. I like to head to a quiet coffee shop, but you might like to sit in the garden and do it, or head to a jazz bar with a glass of wine. Whatever it is, make it a pleasant experience, make it a coffee date with yourself, and fill this out away from your usual place of business to give yourself a chance to really be the visionary of your brand and business. To start this review, it's important to just reflect on the past 12 months. So we're going to start by thinking about your brand or business's journey over the last year and describe it in one word. Now, whether that's growth and expansion or it's launching and just starting, think about just one word that sums up that journey, and that just helps us to start thinking about the bigger picture of our brand. The next thing we're going to do is, again, thinking back over the last year, list 3 successes or wins that you've achieved in your business, and write a little bit about why they were important to you. This is a deceptively powerful step because often we forget to celebrate the little wins in our business, or if we do, we move on so quickly because we have to make the business successful and keep running it. So really take the time during this review to acknowledge that you did good, you deserve recognition for what you've achieved over the last year. The next thing we're going to do, of course, is to look at 3 challenges or failures that we faced in the last year. And most importantly, to think about what we learned from each of them. And one of the things I did want to say about this is something I've learned from working with exceptional coaches over the years and from years of therapy is not to make those failures mean something that they don't mean. A failure doesn't mean that you're a failure. In fact, it's a step towards success and a lesson learned. It doesn't dictate future success, and it's not a reflection on you. If anything, it shows that you're making the brave moves. The second part of this year-end review is a bit of a brand health check. So the first thing is our kind of mission central. We want to have a look at whether our brand values still align with who we are. It's also important to think about what your mission is as a business. Why do you exist? And of course, 2 of the most important things to think about is to remind yourself why you do this, why you started this business to begin with. And secondly, think about the impact that your brand or your business has on your customers, on society, on the environment. These are really important things, and often we don't give ourselves the time to really reflect on them. The next thing we're going to have a look at is our audience. And obviously, the most important thing is to think about whether you really still know who your audience is. But think about it from your audience's point of view. Have they grown or aged or changed? Or maybe an offer that you have created has brought in a different audience. Try and get clear on exactly who your audience is now, and of course, what their pain points are, so that you can also be sure that you're serving them better. And lastly, when it comes to your audience, are you clear on the problem that you solve for them? Because that can help dictate your marketing, your messaging, even your branding going forward. Speaking of branding, the next thing we want to look at is our visual identity. And obviously we want to think about whether our visual identity, our visual branding, still reflects who we are and what we stand for. Are you proud of your visual identity and the branding that you put out there? And conversely, it's worth thinking about whether there's anything missing, anything that doesn't feel right to you anymore. Also, are there weak points in your branding along your customer journey, think about those touch points from the first time your potential customer encounters you all the way through to post-purchase. And think about where there are touch points there that you could improve the branding or the experience to make it more in line with who you are and how you want to project your brand to the world. Okay, now that we've done a bit of reflection of the past year and a little evaluating of where our brand stands, the next thing, of course, is to create an action plan. So the first thing we're going to do is to just do a bit of an idea dump, and looking at the prompts that we've just been through, I want you to just list all the tasks or projects that you think would be important to do this year to move your brand or business forward. The next step is to prioritize 4 of those tasks or projects that you think will have the most impact on your brand in the next year. Then we're going to take those 4 and we're going to allocate 1 to each quarter of next year as a project to focus on during that quarter. And then the most important step is that you're going to take each of those projects and just break them down into micro steps. Now, these steps can be as small or as big as you feel are achievable and helps to motivate you. But sometimes breaking them down into really tiny steps is the best way to get momentum going and start to feel like you're achieving. Of course, it's up to you how you schedule these and how you make sure that they happen. But just by having 1 per quarter to focus on, it means that you don't get overwhelmed by all the other ideas and all the other things. And by the end of the year, you will have achieved 4 projects that will move your business forward. Now, before we wrap up the review and finish our coffee date or wine date, we want to do a couple more things. And the first is to think about how we would measure success for our brand or business in the next year. Apart from financial profit, which is obviously essential, how else will we measure this next year as being successful? Is it a year that we want to be growing and expanding, or a year where we want to be simplifying and focusing down? Whatever it is, think about how you will measure success for the next year. And lastly, coming all the way back around to the beginning, I want you to think about the 1 word that you would want to describe the next year for your business. This is the word that you can use to set your intention for the coming year and provide the vision for your brand for this next 12 months. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you can download a PDF workbook for you to go through this whole process when you take yourself out for your coffee date or your wine date, and give yourself the time to really work through this. A couple of really important notes though that I just wanted to mention. The first is to be kind to yourself when you're doing this. We tend to be quite harsh on ourselves, particularly when it comes to business success, so give yourself a break and acknowledge the good that you've done as well as the challenges and failures that you've faced. Secondly, when you're planning growth and evolution for your business, recognize that there's going to be some resistance, especially when you're making brave moves that are outside of your comfort zone. But don't let it stop you. Rather get curious about why you feel that resistance, and that way you can start to find ways to navigate around it. Also, be brave enough to ask for help, whether that's brave enough to invest in a coach or a mentor, or whether it's just asking your partner for a bit of leeway or a bit of a support now and then. Don't be afraid to do that, because we all need that help sometimes. And lastly, acknowledge that some of these plans may have to change because life happens and things go wrong. But also recognize that if there is no accountability and you're not measuring your success as you go along, it's easy to lose momentum. And sometimes that means starting from scratch again, which is not really where we want to be. But at the end of the day, you've got this. I've got this. We just need to take some time out from our business, step back, and give ourselves the space to really evaluate and plan for the next year to make sure that it is a huge success, however you measure success. That's it, folks. Have a fantastic holiday season, and I will see you at the beginning of next year.